All right, here with Danny Boy, and this is the Outsiders Museum.
It is the Outsiders House Museum, and you are the first guest. So go ahead. I'm sorry.
No. I was just going to say that.
Welcome home.
Thank you. I was here 8 years ago.
Wow.
When you originally first bought the place, and you just mentioned I was the first guest of the. This place did not look like this.
No.
It was almost like dilapidated.
It was knackered.
You could have just tore the whole place down, trash and holes, and I mean, my goodness, man, you have built this into such a beautiful place and such a it's a monument in Tulsa now.
It is, and you know what? Thank you. Welcome back.
Thank you.
I was, when you caught us originally, I think WWE was in town.
Yeah.
And you had come by sight unseen. You just kind of made your own way here. Ironically, somebody from Brooklyn that I knew somebody who was like working back end for that and was trying to get people. He was excited about it because he knew me through my friend. And then I was like, "Do you know?" And you're like, "No, I just came by." I was like, "What?" Which is even more impressive because once we met and we started to talk, we realized we were both '80s pop culture fans.
Yeah.
And just in general, the culture itself. I mean, pop culture is something that was disposable originally, but has meant so much to us. I always say, the television raised me, the movies raised me. I'm a latchkey kid with, a very small family, so I got a lot of like tips and tricks and marching orders, if you will, from some of my favorite characters.
Yeah.
Whether they were comic book, not that I was reading a lot, but definitely movies and television. I mean, Fonzie was the first rebel in my mind, you know, and I know that very much you also cherish and know so much about the same stuff and how it's an important part of, not only American culture, worldwide. You're Canadian, right? And so, and again, we're brothers and sisters in that way, but I've traveled as you have around the world, and it's like you can see the DNA in whether it's high fashion or motorcycle culture or cowboy culture, or we export that to the world, North America, and so I really admire you in that way as well. I mean, you're like me, but the really successful version of because because you really are like, I know that you do so many different things, and it's not because you're trying to overreach or trying to be everything to everybody. It's because you realize that, like, hey man, this is like something that we get to do if we're lucky, and you work your ass off and do it, man. And so again, my hat's off to you, man. You are one of the true Renaissance men in this world where a lot of people have fizzled out or given up or whatever. And I'm the same way in the sense, in a smaller version of like, man, look, I never want that fire to go out inside of me.
And the funny story that I don't know if you remember this, we did have a show in Tulsa, and someone had passed on that the Outsiders house was here. Yeah. Do you want to go check it out? And I was like, yeah, sure, I'll come check it out. But I was kind of messing around and driving around and just taking my time. And when I pulled up here, I think I said, yeah, I'll be there around 1, and it was like 1:45 or something. And you were here.
Yeah.
I didn't know that you were here. And you're kind of like, I think you're kind of thinking, this dude has just been making me wait here for 45 minutes or whatever it was. And I was like, I felt so bad. But that's when we first met and had this, obviously, this kindred spirit of this amazing movie, and the fact that you had this house, and like I couldn't believe it, but I can't believe it even more so now.
Yeah, well, you know what? I don't remember. I mean, now that you say that, we were working on this thing anyway, so time was like a blur. And you were I remember an overcast, perhaps rainy day.
Yes, a good memory.
But you were a bright spot in that, and then I remember taking a photo of you in here and showing you around. And again, people got to understand, you were basically coming to see a blank canvas.
Right.
This was the house, and you really had to listen. I've seen this movie 100 times before ever coming to Tulsa. It played a lot on cable TV when we had it. It was something I would rent at on VHS. Saw it originally in the theater.
So did I.
So I know this legacy, but sometimes, man, when and as you'll notice, when you get into every room where there was a scene, we have a photo. Because, man, when you're live on set in the spot, if you're anything like us, your memories, all these things are firing off in your head. Holy smoke, I'm here, and you can't really like process it all. So these things are here, but this wasn't here. There was no real frame reference. I had some photos, and I think I showed you. And I was like, okay, this is right here. Because sometimes I had to see like what happened in the, okay, this is this scene, and yeah, so
because it was so
you
run
were
down.
Yeah, so you now that I think out loud, you were like a version 1.0 of the beta test of
that's true. That's true.
What a tour could possibly look like. We've come a long way since then, and I just want to say this before I forget. You said, to me, I've done such a great job at this. This is not my story. My story is that I came here, saw this house, and thought this would be a crazy loss if it ever disappeared. I could clearly see that they were coming through this neighborhood, tearing a lot of these homes down, building affordable homes, via a Habitat for Humanities. Right. And I thought, I love what they do, but I would hate them not to know what this was. So, I saw it, and then for the next 5 years, I kept coming back to Tulsa serendipitously. And on year 5, I realized if someone doesn't do something, this house is going to be lost. And so I ended up buying the house with what little money I had, which is little to none.
You paid $15,000, right?
I paid $15,000. At the time, I had $28,000 in my name. I paid another $5,000 to move the tenants out, who were 8 months behind in rent and were tearing this place to shreds. It was a trap house. I mean, maybe they weren't moving product out of here, but they were using it. Yeah, they were. Yeah, when they left me parting gifts. It took about 3 days to clear out all of the gifts that they left behind. All of that to say, man, it was a gamble, and nobody understood. Like, a lot of my friends were like, "Did he relapse? Like, he got a side girl? I was married at that time. He's got a side piece out there.
In Tulsa,
is he running from the law? Why does he keep going back to Tulsa?" And but I saw something here, and I say that to tell you that I needed a lot of help, and man, not having the humility and the ability to ask for help nearly killed me many times, because I needed a lot of help throughout time, but wouldn't bring myself to ask for that. And I would tell you, this community responded accordingly and exceeded all expectations, man. These people are the greatest people that you will ever meet. And I'm sure, you've experienced that. Yeah. But they've helped me. I mean, they put me on high and helped me build this house. I don't have the foggiest idea. I do now, but I didn't, I'm 6'6". I like to think of myself as an alpha male, and if you grew up with me, you knew I was handsy and put a lot of people in, check. But when it comes to like redoing anything that's like a real man skill, I'm like, call somebody.
That's why we're musicians and artists.
Yeah, I'm like, call somebody, because I have no clue. But I got a PhD on how this all works now, because I watched people do it. Better men than myself came in and said, "Man, I'll help you with the floor. I'll help you with the chimney. I'll help you with the roof. We'll do the flooring. You hear that train in the background? It's like a built-in. That's a baked-in outsider sound. The train is
Windricksville.
That's right. It's right down the street. So yes, I would be remiss not to say, hey man, because I don't want to give the impression that I did anything except for identify the potential, and then put what little I had. That's my contribution. Is like I was playing with all of my money, and they responded seeing my sincerity and the authenticity that I had of like, hey man, this is real. This is not a money play. This is not a. Yeah. I had one poster to my name for the Outsiders. I was 40 something years old, 48. Why would I have anything more than that? Yeah. You know what I mean? I was like you. I was equally, if not more, a Fast Times at Ridgemont High fan. I mean, that's my neighborhood. So like, I probably had more. I know I had more collectibles of Fast Times than I did at the Outsiders at that time. But the Outsiders was that movie that literally changed my life. So.
Did it surprise you? You mentioned that kind of this house was so dilapidated. And Tulsa, I mean, Outsiders was filmed in Tulsa. It was written in Tulsa. S.E. Hinton is from here. It seems like it's kind of one of Tulsa's calling cards. Did it surprise you that no one else came up with the idea of doing something with this house? Yes. I took a photo. When I first got here to Tulsa, we had a 3-day layover. And in the business, you understand, like it's cheaper to stay here than it would be to push on to Dallas. Right. So you were on tour with House of Pain? We were on tour. It was actually La Coca Nostra, which is like a super group of all of those groups. And I was the only one sober, highly caffeinated, and I had a small little point-and-click Leica Deluxe 5 camera that I just bought. I just got enough money to buy this like $800 camera, and I was like, man, I'm gonna, for the first time I'm on tour with
sober eyes, I had been off the road for a decade. And then I put La Coca together, and La Coca turned back into a House of Pain reunion. So we came back with House of Pain 2 years later. But
there it is.
Right on time. I'm sure you guys can hear that train.
That's awesome.
It's like free money to me. So yeah, we had 3 days off, and it was day 2 that I had the epiphany. The train was in the background. I started looking at the beautiful downtown setting and hearing dogs barking in the distance. I said, man, what a sweet, quaint, old like slice of Americana. Why does this feel like so familiar? Dare I say home?
Yeah.
And day 2, I was like, I think The Outsiders was filmed here. Is this, wait, oh my God.
Oh,
and
wow.
I asked our driver, we had like a guy who was taking us around, and he was like, hell yeah, it was filmed here. I'm like, dude, we got to go looking for some locations. And at that time, there was nothing on the internet. I figured out where the drive-in was, because it's still a real drive-in. It's called the Admiral Twin. The movie house that she talks about in the opening of the book is, as I stepped out from the darkness of the movie house, or into the bright sunlight. That is the Circle Cinema. But at that time, when I got here, 2009, it was boarded up, and that block was up. I think they were trying to demo the whole block. And then there was and still is, I believe, a website called Tulsa TV Memories. Very antiquated, very old black HTML, like, colored, like, it's just, you're like,
Green
damn,
writing,
somebody made that. Yeah, someone made that way back, which is sweet, because it is like, it is like something you look back and go like, this is made at that, right when people were getting on computers. And they've added to it now since. But at the time, they told me that this was Crutchfield Park from the movie. And then once I knew the name of the park, I Googled that, and nothing really came up. But I found somebody's Flickr page, if you can remember Flickr.
Wow.
Right? There was a Flickr page, which was basically a page where you could post all your photos for other people to see, I guess.
Yeah.
And somebody said, hey, here's the house. I actually met the guy, too, which is crazy. He goes, oh, I found this house way before you did. I was like, sure you did, bro. And he was like, no, dude, I had a Flickr page. I was like, are you? But he's like, yes. Yeah. He's like, so it turned out great. But he said, man, here's the house. And here's Johnny's house, which is a block away. It's been demolished. They put a habitat, but it almost looks the same. But he had it when it was really Johnny's house. And he said, out of respect to the tenants, I won't give up the address. But if you can find the park, you'll find the houses. And I was like, okay, challenge accepted.
Yeah.
And Johnny's house was already torn down at that time. They hadn't rebuilt it. And I finally found this house just by walking the park square and going, that's it. I know that's it. Came here, and ironically, it was for sale for $42,000.
Wow.
I took a photo out front of here, and then I took a photo at our sound check at the Cairns Ballroom, which is also historic. Everybody has played there on their way up. And my road manager at the time, I guess, was talking to the owner and said, hey, Danny's good friends with Steve Jones. I know the Sex Pistols had played there in '78. It was like a big deal for Tulsa. And he's like, yeah, tell him to come in. I want to show him the hole that, Sid Vicious allegedly punched in the green room wall. When they redid the place, they saved it and framed it in the office. So I took a, selfie in front of that, and I posted that. And this is early Facebook. Facebook at the time was something for college kids. I mean, you almost had to, I think you literally had to put in your college.
What year was it that you're talking about?
2009.
Okay, yeah.
And I think it came because I was a band, basically a brand too. Anytime there was a new technology, whether that's Twitter or Facebook, or you had to rush to be like, I'm Danny La Coca Nostra, or here's a House of Pain page, or it was like real estate. You better run to it and
before
get
someone
it
else takes it.
Before somebody else takes it, right? So I had a Facebook account, and I thought, I'm gonna just put this on Facebook. And back then, people were stingy with likes, man. I mean, it was like, you didn't know what that was implying. If you liked a girl's thing, you're married, somebody's going to catch feelings.
Yeah.
If somebody likes your thing, it's like, oh, what you talking? So people were stingy with the likes. But I'm telling you, it was a tipping point. My phone was vibrating that whole week on the tour bus. Brrr, like. And everyone was like, where is that on the Warner Brothers lot? I've worked here 20 years. Or, what? Tulsa? What's a Tulsa? Where in Tucson is that? I'm like, it's Tulsa, dude. And they were blown away. And I'm good. My skill is never been rapping. It's never been writing. It's never been all of the things that people think I do. Graphic design. My skill is seeing a disruption in the pattern and seeing a tipping point And I'm like, oh man, this is something. I said, and we talked earlier about 80s iconic actors who may have been typecast and rejecting the thing, and this kind of plays into it. I realized at 48 at that time where it was like, you know what? This is becoming really cool for me to look back at my 80s things that I were like, that's kid stuff. Like, I'm over all of that. Like, I don't want to hear about The Breakfast Club and Pretty in Pink and all of the coming of age movies, whatever they were, Slapshot, whatever, all of them. My sweet spot is like 76 to 86, man. Bad News Bears, Slapshot, all of those Warriors. Yeah. We were all fans of, me and you were like, we're the same dude. And I was like, man, it is finally in my head cool to like revisit those legacies, and really started posting about them. And I started to urban explore on that tour and started a thing called the Delta Bravo Urban Exploration Team. And I started building up steam and building up members. It's still a current thing today.
And this is where you would go to different pop culture places.
And hit the before and after photo and then give up the addresses. And nobody was doing that before. There were a few accounts on Flickr, like I said, that were like location scouts and managers. And if they had a location, they were that information was proprietary to them. They were like gatekeeping. And I was like, dude, I'm sober and everything we do is, for free and I'm like, no, I'm giving up the goods. Like, here's the house, here's the address. If there are people or whatever, I'm like, look, respectfully, someone lives there, but come see for yourself. And then I started meeting all kinds of eclectic people, from the actual photographers themselves that were on there, or the producers, or the actors. I'd tag them, and they'd be like, "Dude, I didn't even know." Like Mike Damone didn't know where his apartment was. And like, why would he? You film and you forget.
Yeah, of course.
And we found it, and we found it doing a Google search because we noticed in the valley. If you would know the valley. There's a corridor that they made a highway from. Like, it was supposed to go from Hollywood to like Burbank, and then they pulled the plug on it, and so they ran the power through the valley in that way. And there's these giant antennas that run like through Pickwick, where the ice skating rink used to be, from Burbank all the way through the valley floor. It starts up like the Hollywood Bowl, and it goes weird through North Hollywood to Tahunga. Anywho, I was like, man, well, we'll start at the top of that. We know it starts at basically Ventura Boulevard-ish, and we'll just keep. And it was like 5 blocks in, and we're like, dude.
There it is.
Anyway, we found it on Google Earth, and then we went to the location. We're like, there's his apartment. And I think that, for Robert Romanus, was the tipping point as well. He was like, man, you guys are good. And I had a podcast at the time. We really had to bend his arm to get him out to do that. But we became fast friends, and I just fell in love again with all of the stuff that had really been, all of that little DNA was in who I became. And I was like really happy to revisit it. And then with the internet growing just like AI is now, where every day Google would just be more and more powerful, more and more stuff was appearing on it, that you just had this resource that you just never had before to search this stuff out, to investigate this stuff, to find where it was. And if you wouldn't find it, I'd go find it on old school ways, just by hitting the bricks, and then give it up. And then I'd watch other people hit it. And now there's a whole world dedicated to these locations and stuff. So it was the Outsider's House was birthed, the idea for a museum the first time I found it. 1, I couldn't believe it was still up. 2, I couldn't believe it was for sale. 3, I couldn't believe for $42,000 anybody could have bought this. 5 years later, we found the owner. She had inherited from her husband, who had just bought it from the bank at a tax lien sale. The guy who inherited it is whose dad rented this to Coppola, and he lost it, unfortunately, because I say one of us, I shouldn't. I said he's one of me. He didn't find the recovery I found, and he's still in the neighborhood. And I know he lost this house after not paying taxes for 3 years, which I looked up the taxes. It was $300 a year.
Wow.
So he lost this house for $900.
So when you got this place, you always had the mindset, I'm going to try and make this into a museum. I'm going to make this into a museum.
I wish I could tell you that was the case. It was not. I thought I got a second home. I lived in a little apartment on Rexford and Olympic. And I was thinking, man, I got a home. I thought, there's no way anybody cares about this legacy if this house can be had for so cheap. I ended up buying it, like I told you, 5 years later, found the owner. We reached out. We said, hey, we know it's off market. Apparently the tenants are tearing it to shreds. if you ever think of selling it, let us know. And I had my friend, we called her Freeway, because I have a hard time selling dollar bills for 50 cents. I am no businessman. I'm a businessman, but I'm not the sales guy. I'm not the guy who's going to work the deal. I show up after, and then, So he was like, she said, well, your timing is impeccable, and I'm interested in selling now. And he said to her, well, let's hear it. And she said, I won't take a penny less than 20 grand. And he said, that's interesting. He said, but unfortunately, I've seen the house, and it is a complete POS. Yeah. She said, fair play. And she said, and the tenants haven't paid rent in 8 months. And she goes, but it is a double property. And if you didn't come out of nowhere, I would have split it up on you, because this is in that lot, which is our lawn. And he said, I'll give you 15 grand for it, take it or leave it. And she said, give me 30 days. And we said, 30 days, for a guy like me, 30 days is miserable. 30 days.
Forever,
Thinking, because I'm like, she's going to Google something and figure out, like, she's going to think I'm rich. And I'm like, look, lady, I've made more on accident in the 90s than I've ever made on purpose in the 2000s. And so she was like, they haven't paid. They owe me $4 grand, and it's the principle that I'm interested in, that they keep their word. Unfortunately, they didn't. 30 days came and went. I was biting my nails that whole, I was like, she's going to renege. She's going to think I'm rich. She's going to Google me somehow, figure out I'm the guy from House of Pain, and think
you wrote Jump Around.
Yeah, or making or even like running a hustle or something. Yeah. So ironically, she was in Florida, and we did a House of Pain show at some tattoo festival, which was crazy. And it was in the same town she was in, but we both had to drive to Tampa to make the deal. Oh. And my buddy, who I told you about on the phone, if we had his money, I know you do quite well, but and I do good now too, but if we had his 10% of his money, we'd burn our money. That's that kind of money he has. And he goes, don't worry, we'll meet at my lawyer's office. I'll take care of this. We pull in, and it looks like something out of RoboCop. It's like this chrome building with Bentleys and Mercedes. I'm like, dude, she's going to see this and going to run for the hills, dude. I walk in, it's glass doors, shoom, shoom, beautiful, chick at the front. She's like, can I get you coffee, water, champagne? I'm like, oh, we're toast. Everybody in there had a platinum watch on. I'm like, oh, man, they're coming in here and just going to run. And they came in looking shell-shocked. They go, what's going on? I said, I got to be honest with you. Don is not the real buyer. He's the shill buyer. They're like, whoa, I thought something was going on. I said, listen, my name is Danny. I used to rap for a living, and I was worried that if you Googled me, you would think that, I'm some... And I said, I'm just a fan, and I can't stand to see this house deteriorating, and I'm worried that they're going to come make you an offer and tear it down for habitat, which turned out to be correct. And I don't know what I can do with it, but I'd like to try. She says, no, we're good. We're done with it. We didn't get it. For whatever reason, they didn't have a good go of Tulsa, but Tulsa has changed a lot since, but she's like, and I believe your sincerity, and we're just happy that you're happy about it. And yes, we knew it was the outsider's house. We actually tried to do something which was shocking to me. Yeah. But we couldn't get any traction with that. And with all due respect, they were, now my age. She was probably 60 something, and internet was kind of new, and they didn't have, a fan base that I had that I could tap into. So she just said, good luck. And the rest, we started just bootstrapping it, and I started a GoFundMe campaign, and little by little it came in. And the first big donor was the author herself. Essie Hinton gave me 10 grand, and literally I was crying, and I don't think I've cried since Mickey died in Rocky in 1978. So I was like, damn, she got me to squirt a few tears.
So Essie Hinton donated.
She was the biggest donator at that time, but I was getting 100 here, 100 there. We had some famous people. So the money started to come in, and we just started to put it to good use. I was trying to raise $75,000, and the funding stalled out at about 48,000, 40-ish. And we were still like, that's cool. A lot of it was gift in kind. So people were coming and doing a lot of work where there was no money being, spent, but they were, donating or whatever. And then Jack White came to town, and he played the baseball stadium, the only person who's ever played. We have the Dodgers AAA or AA team here, the Drillers. and he played the show, and they called me from the BOK Center, which is they're partners with the baseball
That's the
field.
arena, yeah.
That's the arena, yeah. And they're like, hey, Jack White's in town, and could you go get him a basket with like a T-shirt and an autograph book? And I'm like, what am I, the bellman? You know, like, my ego kicked in a little. I'm like, woo, you know. But I was like, part of me was like, what the, like, and then the Tulsa World came out, and I read the article that they did on him, and he was saying he's a fan of S.E. Hinton's outside. I was like, oh, never mind. Yeah, I'll go get that real quick. So I grabbed a book, and I grabbed some shirts, and I went to Susie's, and Susie being S.E. Hinton, and I said, Susie, listen, I don't do this, because I don't, if you like my daughter, I'd be like, fine. But just everybody who asked me to get a hold of her, I'm like, stop. That's not ever happening. But I said, say, Susie, it means something to me. They're asking from this. And she goes, who is he? And I said, well, his name is Jack White from the White Stripes. He's very, successful / I mean, I am a fan of his things, make no doubt. But she said, she goes, okay. And I said, well, he gave you a nice shout out in the Tulsa World. He's a fan. She says, oh, okay, well, I love him already. And then she said, whatever in the book. And then I showed up to the event. I was just going to drop the basket and be by. And so I went, I called them. I said, hey, I'm out front to the BOK people. They're like, oh, tell the security and they'll bring you around. So we get, in the dugout area, in the clubhouse. And I was like, oh, here's the basket, cool. Tell him I said hi. And they're like, no, he wants it. So we went back there, and he was like, oh, hey. He's like, man, what was he? He knew the second album. He knew a video from there. And he was like, man, what was the boxing video? I was like, oh, shit. Like, he knew something. And then he was super cool, man. And that was it. I was just like, hey, I got to meet him. And then I stayed around. I watched the show. I was, back, on the stage watching it. What a tremendous talent. And then he was like, yeah, man, I'll try to come by tomorrow. I was like, yeah, sure. Again, I'm from Hollywood. The intent is always great, but then reality kicks in and you're like, dude, yeah. Dude, so no big deal. So the next day we were working on this thing, Andy. We were busy.
So you weren't open for business?
No, we were stuck, really. We were, and ironically enough, and this is to anybody who's out there listening that's like working on a project, man, know your numbers, man, because I'm the opposite of the numbers guy, but I had just went over them because I was starting to be like, hey, man, we're running out of money here, and this is going to be egg on our face if we can't get this to the finish line. So I had just the day before, independent of anything Jack White, knowing anything about it, anything, I was like, dude, I need to know where I'm at because I'm going to have to figure out a way to push again to ask for support. And so when the next day came, we were working on this as we do every day, and then we were all like, hey, let's go to the Dillon Diner down the street and catch a bite and then come back. So I walked in the Dillon Diner, man, and someone goes, Danny boy, and I was like, whoa, and it was Jack, and he was with his people, and they was like, yo, bro, you gonna be there in 20 minutes? We're gonna go to the guitar store. And I go, yo, tell my boy I said, what's up? Yeah. And 20 minutes later, he pulled up in his old car. He actually bought a house here. I don't think he's ever there anymore. Yeah. But he bought a house. I think he had a girlfriend here at one point. He pulled up. He walked through it. It had a little bit more done than when you had got here, clearly. But it wasn't. There was nothing. There was no like real collectibles or any of that stuff. We were just doing the infrastructure. And then he said, "Where you at with this thing?" And I said, well, it's funny you would ask that. I said, so I just crunched all the numbers. And I said, we're 30 shy of our goal. And he goes, what would that 30 get you? I said, well, get us over the finish line. I said, but it's, for the education components, all of the things that we needed. And he's like, cool, well, I want to write you a check from last night's show for 30 grand. And the whole room was like, wow. Even his people. And I was like, man, I mean, literally, you ever seen in like Jaws where the camera's like, it goes in like that? I was like, damn. And literally, he took a few photos, took off. 2 minutes after he left, someone's texting me from LA. Hey, this is his accountant. Where do you want the check? Jeez. I think it was like a Jewish holiday. He's like, but when we'll be back in the office after that, and we'll send you the check. And I was like, brilliant.
That's incredible.
I mean, so he didn't. So I love pointing that out, that he didn't make me chase it either. Yeah. And then the funniest ever is, so Billy Idol, I grew up wanting to be Billy Idol so bad it hurt. So Billy Idol and Matt Dillon, if they could take those two archetypes, those are the dudes that I wanted to be like the most, right? And just by living in Hollywood and knowing all the people that you know and run into, Billy, and motorcycles, and I knew Billy not well, but
casually.
Yeah, hey Billy, hey Johnny, how you going, mate? That's
yeah.
it. You know, any friends of Jonesy is a friends of Billy's, and you know all of that. And so he's playing the Hard Rock Casino. My buddy Billy Morrison is the guitar player, along with Steve Stevens, who's the guitar player, but Billy's like rhythm guitar. And he's like, yo, man, come check out the show. I go, I'd love to, yeah. So as always, I bring T-shirts and whatever. So I get there and we're backstage and there's no Billy, and I'm not even there for all that. I'm just happy to be in the house, yeah. And all of a sudden the manager comes out and he goes, Danny? And I go, yeah. He goes, Billy'd like to see you in his dressing room. I'm like, okay. And so I went back there and he goes, hey man, how you going? I'm like, good. He goes, so you live here now? I go, yeah. He goes, and you bought a house? And I go, oh no, I live at the Mayo Hotel. And he goes, what? I thought you bought the Outsider's house. I was like, wait, what?
Word got around.
I'm like, how do you know about I said, you know about the Outsider's house? Now, keep in mind, the 14-year-old in me is like fangirling out.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm like, the fact that just he knows my name is shocking to me. Right. And the only other way he would have known it was because I would have ended up in the papers for like, know, something criminal. Yeah. But he knew my name. Then he knew about my project. Mm-hmm. And he's like, yeah, man, I heard Jack gave you $30,000. I was like, wow, you're up on things. And he was like, yeah. He goes, I'd like to give you some money too, mate. And I go, you would? He's like, not $30,000, mate. And I was like, shit, well, I'll take what I can get and love it. Next day, Instagram me. It's like, mate, give me your address. And, he sent me $1,000, man. And I don't care if he would have sent me $1. $1,000 from Billy Idol. You don't think I scanned that check, framed that check? Don't worry, Billy. I blacked out the pertinence. No, it's in my office, but I blacked out the pertinent information as far as your account goes. Steve Stevens was like, mate. I keep saying mate because I'm thinking of Jonesy, but he was like, hey, isn't Matt in that movie? I go, oh yeah. He goes, oh, me and Matt used to be cool back in the day, and I know Matt to be a total music. That's his art and music is Matt Dillon's wheelhouse, And he was telling me some cool Matt Dillon stories and stuff, and I was just like, man, somebody pinch me, man, because just sitting here with you is like we are in the Outsider's house. For me, that's super significant. To anybody else, it might be like whatever. So,
did you have to go once you start getting ready and you've renovated? Did you have to go to the city to get a license to be a museum? How were they receptive to it?
It's a great question. Yes is the answer, and I will say this. It's not as easy as it looks. It wasn't that it was hard for me to do it, but I know the trifecta is hard to accomplish. So there is the Christmas Story Museum in Cleveland, which is Ralphie's house. And somebody saved that, restored it, literally turned the whole block into almost an amusement park, if you will. The way he was able to do that is because that neighborhood was literally downtrodden, abandoned, etc. So it was a leg up for that. And then he started to support his neighbors, helping them redo their houses, buying properties when they were coming up, or people were like, hey, you're doing so well here, double me up and buy my old thing, and you can have that, or we'll go, to the other side of town. So there were things that precursed this, but this also is in a neighborhood, it's a mixed-use community, so there's there's an automotive thing across here. This was an old neighborhood that had a lot of scrap yards, and people who worked on cars, and people who worked, So, but we had somebody oppose us when we went to our hearing, our neighbor, and listen, for whatever reason, she was like, nah. And she was like, you just need to pick it up and take it back to Hollywood with you. And I was like, that ain't happening. And I thought, damn, this is going to sink my battleship, man. And she's going to, but they were like, look, no. This is, this is warranted what he's doing. He's allowed to do it. And they took a vote. It was 10-1. One person said, no, I side with her. I was like, that was the first vote too. I was like, and I was like, no.
But it's not like a jury. You don't have to have exclusive.
No, but it was scary, bro. It was
it is.
Everything I've worked for and everything that I'm doing right now is for naught because somebody doesn't like it. And it's, and I get it. We're, like I said, before you got here, I was talking to the camera guy and I was like, look, the Fast Times is one of my favorites as well. And I always said, if that house comes up, if Stacy's house comes up, there's no play there because you're in a neighborhood that's upwardly mobile. And listen, if I live next door to it and you try to make a Fast Times museum, I'm going to vote no. Because it's just, this is a draw for this neighborhood and brought the neighborhood up. But in some neighborhoods, you just cannot get away with that.
The
and
Full House in San Francisco is not getting sold.
You're not turning it into a museum because it's just, you can't expect for your neighbors to think that that's cool.
Yeah.
This, because of it was like a lot of abandoned houses, a lot of trap houses. Mm-hmm. Everybody who is on this block, with the exception of one person, is like, we love it. You've restored our faith in this community. You cut your grass, so we cut our grass. You fixed your fence, so we fixed our fence. We've helped people do some of this. Some people have come to us and thanked us for the inspiration. And I'm sure the only downside is maybe their property taxes went up, but so did the values of their house, because of how do I know? I bought the house across the street and turned it to an Airbnb. And when he told me $63,000, now if you're living in LA, that sounds like nothing. But here, you could have bought 3 of these houses. And he was like, well, it's your fault. And I was like, you got me there. What am I going to do?
So you bought it as an Airbnb?
Yeah, there's an Outsiders Airbnb, and it's got all this kind of stuff over there, too. Oh, yeah. It's a mini museum. So, but I bought it so that nobody else would buy it and then cause a problem. Mm-hmm. Because you may assume that this looks cool, and then all of a sudden somebody parks in front of your driveway one too many times, and you're like, dude, I'm calling the city.
Right.
So I preemptively bought it, and then like, what am I going to do with this house? And I go, Airbnb. And
Smart.
at the time, it was all the rage because of COVID. It has since cooled down, but we have a steady flow. And listen, it's, again, none of this was ever money making for me. I make money doing this. We also have a nonprofit component that does all the school stuff, and we'll talk about that. But this was never a money play. This was strictly passion play. Mm-hmm. And the beautiful thing out of it is that we have, I've been able to employ people. We have a wonderful volunteer staff. A few of them were in the movie in small extra roles. We've had so many people come through here and just pour their heart out on what
well, just for
this story means.
The tourism for Tulsa, too. Yeah. Like I was going to say earlier, is that, sure, maybe you can't get the Fast Times house because it's in the middle of, the valley.
But they don't need it.
They don't need it. This is Tulsa.
Yeah, this is Tulsa.
Like you said, there's the Drillers, there's the BOK Center, and there's the Outsiders house. Like this is, like I was going to tell you this. I was going to text you to find out what the address was, but I said, well, let me just put it on my phone. Comes right up on maps. I just put it the Outsiders Museum. Boom.
Yeah,
hit it.
Right there.
Takes me right there.
It's a beautiful thing. Well, listen. In 2009, when I got here, there was nothing going on but the rent. Downtown was a beautiful, pristine city, but there was nobody here.
Yeah.
Kane's Ballroom was the anchor and the only thing that was still up and running, incredible. Since then, I can throw a rock and hit 20 different points of interest. Mm-hmm. The Church Studios is 2 blocks away. It's the home of Leon Russell and the Tulsa Sound. Teresa Knox put in her hard-earned money. She's probably in it for $15 to $20 million. It is such a draw and such an asset. Her passion and her museum. There's parks that came out of nowhere. There's venues. There's just so much stuff that you can. When I first got here, you could tell people 1 or 2 things. Route 66 alone, we have the longest rideable stretch of that road.
Oh, wow.
And next year is the 100th anniversary, which
cool.
is they completely rescinded all their old signage laws, allowed you to put their signs back. It's thriving right down the street. They've got all these cool stores. So Tulsa is on the move. And then all the historical stuff from the Outsiders. The Circle Cinema was saved. It's an independent cinema. It plays all the cool movies plus all your hit movies. The drive-in is still up and functional. Wow. They play The Outsiders and Rumblefish once a year, and they have a go of it. So
the gas
it's a
station
mix
too, right?
Yeah, the gas station. Thank you. The gas station in Sperry has been restored, and that whole thing has sparked a whole love for that little small, 100-year-old or more. Little small town that they've kind of made all of these little things that partner with it. And so the Outsiders House Museum has inspired other creatives, and then likewise what they've built is reaffirming to me that we have Bob Dillon Museum, we have the Woody Guthrie Museum, we have all of these things popping up, and so there's a lot to chew on here now. And it's just the beginning here. So it's a wonderful place to live. Listen, I left Beverly Hills to be here, and I say that, I spent 48 years of my life in Los Angeles, and I never look back, man. The people here are so, that's the secret sauce, is the people, man. They really are heart and soul, salt of the earth, kind of people who would, if you ran out of gas on the thing, they wouldn't honk and give you the bird. They would jump out, almost fight to who gets to push you to the gas station or all of that. That's the kind of people I want to surround myself with. And that's the reason I'm in the position I am now, because these people have helped me with my dream. And now it's like for me to give back to those people. Now, that brings me right to the school tours. Now, I know that it was required reading in 7th grade, but I assure you, I don't care what was required in 7th grade. I wasn't doing it, okay? So my mother used to joke, if you want to hide money from Danny, hide it under the soap or in the books. He'll never find it, yeah? And so I never read this book. I went to see it with my friend, Steve Sokolsky. He was an athlete. He looked like George Michael in his peak, which was like a thing.
Yeah.
All the girls loved this kid. He could fight. He was a straight A student. This guy was incredible. And that summer, I'd see him on a BMX. That was our common thread. We were all BMX dudes. And he was too cool for me. But one summer, I just kept running into him. He's like, hey, man, I'm going to go see this movie on Saturday. You want to roll with me? We rode our bikes and saw The Outsiders. And I had no preconceived, I didn't know what this was. I didn't even see the trailer for it. I came out of there like, damn, like that was, to me, it was the crazy stories my mother used to tell about my father, who was in prison since I've been 2 months old. And when she would have a one too many, she would reminisce, or curse his name, whatever the flop of the coin was. But she would tell me about his, his toughness and his physical prowess and all of that. And I was like, this is that era. And I loved it so much. And me and my mother were very, we just never really click. But I begged her the next week, come see this movie with me. It's important. I wanted to, because I thought, And I'll never forget, we came out of it. I was like, what did you think? She was like, well, I don't know how they do it in Tulsa, but that's not how we do it in Brooklyn. And I thought, but it was the thing that made me have the epiphany when I got here. And I was like, what is this place? And I remember hearing her saying, I don't care how they do it in Tulsa, but I was like, The Outsiders was filmed here. What? And it's changed my life. So. That being said, I never read the book. So when I built this museum, I was in mind was you and me and our friends, basically middle-aged men who like switchblades, leather jackets, and the Matt Dillon characters of life. And I want you to know that we just did 6,000 students last semester, not school year.
Oh my gosh.
We don't even have Tulsa public schools yet, which is a whole other story. It's just
6,000 students have toured the museum.
Just the last semester of that school. Semester. They come from 5 different states around.
Oh my gosh.
It's required reading all over the world now.
It still is, yeah.
Yeah, the book's been translated in over 33 languages that we know of. It's still growing. These kids, it's the book that they relate to more than any other book. It's the story of the haves and the have-nots and finding the center. And no matter what side of the tracks you grow up on, life is rough all over, and you still have to figure out, and staying gold is the goal. And with no spoilers, we're open Monday. We're closed Monday through Thursday during the school year. We're open now because this is our last week of summer. We're open from Wednesday to Sunday for the general public. But on any given day, we are closed Monday through Thursday because we allot that time for schools, and they come in mass.
Oh, wow.
And then we only are open Friday, Saturday, and Sunday for the general public. We do 100 to 150 people a day on the weekends.
You're kidding me.
And we just did close to 6,000 students. We will have Tulsa Public, which is where we are.
Yeah.
And they will now come. It was just a snafu, and there was some political stuff that went on with the teachers and the administration. So with the rollover, we just couldn't. We were low on their priority of getting things together, but we're getting them next year, starting this coming semester. And we're hoping to bring that number higher. And again, this is something that I didn't foresee. Yeah. I should have. Anybody who read the book would have been, that's like going to be half your. But the book is really the driver. And now you go fast forward to the Broadway musical, which has been sold out since its day one. Yeah. It won 4 Tonys and was nominated for, I think, 13, which is like the second highest of all time for nominations. And now is coming here in September.
Oh, wow.
So, yes, late September and October. And then we're doing our benefit as that musical is leaving Tulsa, they'll be partners with us.
And you do the benefit annually?
This is going to be the first year.
Oh,
So
gotcha.
yeah, so it's October. So yes, so we're a nonprofit and our goal is to reach as many students as we can, to encourage them to find their inner S.C. Hinton. She wrote this book when she was 15 and a half.
Unbelievable.
She failed English that year and got a D+ in creative. You would have thought she was a Trailer Park Boys, right? Like Ricky.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
They get his grade 10. No, she wrote this thing, man, and she said, Danny, I didn't let my lack of punctuation or spelling get in my way. And that there's something to be said for that. You know, listen, if you're a straight A student or valedictorian and all that, and you got a Mensa card, God bless.
Yeah.
You're blessed, you know. But when you're struggling and you don't know, you know, one way from another, and your grades are, you know, quite honestly shit, and you go, I don't care, you know. That's the spirit I had. School didn't appeal to me whatsoever. And I was like, I'm going to do something, but it ain't any of the curriculum that you're teaching. It doesn't make any sense to me. Why would I have to take math if there's a calculator? Like, it doesn't make sense to me.
Right.
You know, like, a lot of things didn't make sense to me. And I was also like, dude, I was obsessed with music and movies. And so I was like, something's going to... when we get kids here and they hear that information and we see the light bulb go on, it's like, man, it'll change your life. And so what I realize is that with this house being almost 100 years old and the amount of traffic that we get through here, that we could reach a lot more people. So the dream is to build an S.C. Hinton Museum, to put all of her work in there. Tex, Rumblefish, The Outsiders, that was then, this is now, and I think 11 total novels.
Those are the 4 cornerstones.
Those are the 4 that are movies.
Yeah.
In those include, obviously, Coppola, Francis Ford, and both The Outsiders and Rumblefish. Stuart Copeland, who it was the first time that he had ever been asked to do a soundtrack, and it was the first time that Coppola didn't use his father to do a soundtrack. Okay. And I know that Stuart Copeland has many times praised, you know, he came here, was playing the drums on set. The whole narrative for him was the movie's about time and it escaping you, and who's the better at the hi-hats, you know. So his whole thing was, if you listen to that soundtrack again, you're going to hear it's like a metronome for everything. That's
okay.
So he came here and did his thing, but it changed the trajectory of his life as well, because what we didn't know was that the Police was the biggest band in the world in '82, but internally they were breaking up. Right. And after Synchronicity,
they were done.
There was no more, and that was that era. So he, like many of us, was like, now what?
Yeah.
You know, where do you go from there? Yeah. And now I think he got an Oscar a year or 2 ago for some movie that he
still
did.
Still doing soundtracks.
Yeah, and that's where his, you know, like Danny Elfman, like he found, you know, Oingo Boingo was one thing, and then he found, you know, Tim Burton and all of that. Yeah, Batman, and Devo too, you know, Mark Mothersbaugh did a lot of like Rugrats and all of that. Like they find their niche somewhere else, and it's completely like way bigger than Devo was, but you don't know it because it's just like it's behind the thing.
That's right.
And Danny Elfman the same, and I'm thinking, I don't know that personally it's got to be bigger because you get if you're getting Oscars and exactly, and you don't have to deal with the front man, who I'm a big fan of, but I don't have to work with them. I just have to listen to them. So again, you know, like I know, like you know, I think the common thread between like me, Steve Jones, I won't name the bands because they're still functional bands, but you're like, we all have the same issue here.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. I mean, there's so many great you know, pieces here. I don't even know the word is escaping me, but the memorabilia, I guess, the artifacts. Yeah. Where did you find all of these?
It's a great question.
And tell us some of the highlights
of
the artifacts.
So when I first bought the house and then announced that I was raising money for a museum, I thought, oh no, what will I be showing said guests?
Here's a couch.
That which is not the real couch. No, so it's a great question. So when Coppola wrapped these films, so he did The Outsiders, and then 2 weeks later, he went right into Rumblefish.
Oh, wow.
They're both Susie's books. They're both filmed here. And then he knew he was going bankrupt because he did a movie prior to this called One from the Heart. Yeah. That was his proverbial water world. Yeah. He put all of his money into it. Yeah. It was a huge bomb. And, you know, pre-cell phones and internet, he could hide out here. He just wanted to be away from that and just be doing his passion projects and raise a little money, you know, to get a little. But I say that when he pulled out of here, the wardrobe went with him, and a few of the cars went with him. All the money cars went. The Sherry's Corvette went. The Socha's Mustang went, and Buck's T-Bird is somewhere up in. Now he sold the Mustang at an auction in 2005, and I think it went for $12,000.
Wow.
Which is like, what?
Yeah, it's crazy.
It was right before I knew about what I knew. All of that to say, 6 months later or so, he went bankrupt, and everything from Zoetrope went to an auction. At that time, The Outsiders and Rumblefish was not the hits that we remember them now. Rumblefish for sure was kind of like, oof.
Wasn't well received
And
at all.
The Outsiders it saved, just like Fast Times, VHS was
Oh, right.
Fast Times was only in the theater for 1 month.
Wow.
It was $1 million a month to keep a movie.
Jeez,
and
right.
Universal thought that it was a regional movie for LA cats and nobody would get it. And then they were wrong, and VHS killed it, and so did The Outsiders. It was like I think for sure that's where most people discovered it, because it didn't stay in theaters that long. It was more than a month.
No, it wasn't a big box office
It was that
hit
summer,
either.
right? So I say that to say, when you went to that auction in '83, most people were probably like, older than the audience for that, and you couldn't just buy one thing. So if you wanted to buy the Emilio Estevez shirt, you had to buy the whole lot. Who wanted a whole lot from a movie? Most people, I'm assuming, were there for Godfather 1 and 2 and Apocalypse Now.
Right, for sure.
So secondary buyers bought this who owned movie and poster stores on Hollywood Boulevard, and then bought it and then broke up the collection and sold it in their store, because they sell, when I was growing up, you go up on Hollywood Boulevard and you could go to a lot of these stores that sold like used scripts, used point of purchase, any standees and movie posters that were folded up from the theater would sell you. It was like all of that, and so I had nothing. The first thing that walked in the door unsolicited was this wonderful Coppola's chair. The chair was from One from the Heart, The Outsiders, and it was stolen on the set of Rumblefish. Our friend Gary, rest in peace, he recovered it when he was on Tulsa PD. A homeless dude had it behind the liquor store back here on Bunce's junk, and he said, "You get your." He goes, "Wait a minute, whose chair is that?" He goes, "That's not my chair. You want that chair?" He's like, "Yeah, put that in." So he said, "Danny, that thing was going to go to Valhalla with me until I met you." And we've been shining that up with Pledge for 33 years, and he's like, "Man, it belongs here." And I was like, "Thank God." Then I went to Susie's house, and she said, "I said, Susie, nobody seems to be able to come up with call sheets." It's an old idea now that everything is digital, but the call sheet was something that an actor would get every day and would tell them who's going to be on set, where to be. Everybody's information was on that. And I would see them pop up every blue moon. It was like one or two of the same ones. And I was like, we're interested. And do you have any? She goes, "I got a whole box. Well, you want to come over and get them?" I'm like, "Yes, ma'am." And as I got there, as I was looking through all of this box of Outsider stuff, she come out the thing and she said, "Hey, would you be interested in this painting?" And I looked, and it was the painting from the first softcover book. It's over our...
there it is,
It's over our fireplace now. And I was like, "Yes, ma'am, I would like that. Are you sure?" She's like, "Yeah, the publisher sent it back to us, and they, 30-something years they went out of business, and they asked if I wanted it." I said, "That was very cool of them, and thank you for..." And then she goes, "Oh, hell, hold on." And she went away for a minute, and I'm just digging through the box. Thank God I was sitting down. She comes around the corner, and she's like, "What about this? Would you be interested in this?" And it was Matt Dillon's leather jacket.
No.
And my heart was like...
The brown one.
Yeah, dude.
Dalley's
And I mean,
jacket.
again, I want to be Dally so bad it hurt. So I was like, if I was standing up, I probably would have fainted. And I was like, "Are you kidding me?" And she was like, "No." She was, "Oh, it's been sitting in this closet for 20-something years. It's got some mold on it, and it needs to be cleaned up. And I don't want you to put photos out on the internet because I don't want people to, feel..." I said, "Susie, one, I wouldn't. And two, it's expected. This climate is bad. And if you set something back in the closet for 20-something years, 30 years, to be expected." So took it to California with me, drove it home, brought it in from the hotel parking lot. No way, man.
Not leaving that out there.
And when I got to LA, I had a friend, Randy Shanofsky, hook me up with an industry guy who was in Santa Monica who had a dry cleaner spot. I'm like, "Are you sure at the right place?" He's like, "Trust me, this is the insiders. This is all the people in the inside know this is your guy." And he said, "I can't fix the sleeves. They were, someone needed to do that, but I can fix the outside." And I said, "Well, okay, can I wait?" He goes, "Oh, this will be a week or two." I was like, No. And he's like, "Well, take it with you." I was like, "No, all right, fine. It was, again, one of the hardest, week and a half, 2 weeks.
to make sure.
But he got it to me, and then I took it to another place where they literally told me, "Who told you about this? This is not walk-in. We don't do." It was a big house of costumes. They were making all kinds of shit for the movies, and it's just Hollywood stuff right on Larchmont. I was like, okay. The lady was like Cruella DeVille. She was like, basically told me to screw.
Yeah.
And she's like, what is it anyway? And I said, it's from The Outsiders, and it's Dallas Winston's. And I'm literally like fight traffic to get back to where I live in Beverly Hills, the little apartment. And no, I was walking out the door, and she goes, oh, hold on a second. And she goes, Jose just heard what you said. He's a fan of The Outsiders. Give it to me. And I was like, oh my God. And I go, well, how much will that be? Because I've seen like, they're doing like these insane costume pieces. She goes, I don't know. When will it be done? She gave me that look. I go, okay, you have my number. Literally fight my way through traffic, which I could have walked it in like 20 minutes, but it took me about an hour and a half to get through traffic just to get back from Larchmont Village to where I lived. And as I'm walking in after fighting that traffic, my phone rings. She goes, it's ready. I go, what's ready? She goes, listen, son. Oh my God, the jacket? I'll be right there. And she goes, I don't know, give him $50.
Wow.
Here's $100. Keep the change.
Yeah.
And now I had Dolly's jacket. So at best I knew, hey man, I can go on eBay, buy some tchotchkes, the VHS tape. I found like, a Japanese poster. I find some cool rare stuff. There's stuff that comes up all the time. There seems to be a never-ending supply of Japanese posters. They're probably still printing them somewhere.
Yeah,
Somebody's got like a little side hustle. But I was happy in knowing that if we could restore the look, that painting, Dolly's jacket, the original poster, and
Francis, that's a pretty good start.
That's a really good start.
Yeah.
And then sure as shit, like people were like, hey man, my buddy, he's got some stuff in storage. So actually that's Rob Lowe's flannel.
His flannel shirt in the bathroom.
Yeah, the DX stuff that Rob wore. We
From
have
the gas station,
this Mickey and the two Mickeys that Emilio. That's all.
You got
the
switchblade up there.
Yeah, that came from Buddy Lou Hooker, who Buddy Joe Hooker is actually his name. I'm a little coffee needs to kick in. It's been a long day, but he's been around since Leave It to Beaver. He was one of the actors on that show, but he's a stuntman par deluxe. I mean, he's still working. He's 80-something. He could kick both of our asses. And he got that from Emilio. It is not the movie scene one. It's one of the ones that Emilio gave him, but the one that shows up has a little different modified blade. But I don't care. That came from Buddy's hand.
Cool. Yeah, I'll take it.
And he's like, yeah, that's from Emilio directly. And he's like, Emilio been here? I said, no, man. He's like, oh, I'm going to get after them, So we still haven't had him.
I was going to ask that next. Who has been there?
Yeah. So it's easier for tell me who to tell you. So wardrobe wise, it's easier for me to tell you what I don't have than what I do have. We have a lot, and what I don't have that I'm still looking for is the Madra jacket that Leif Garrett wore. It's that plaid jacket, and we know it went to auction. But from there, we don't know. The cars, Coppola, if you're listening, those are two of them are still sitting there collecting dirt up in Napa, the Thunderbird and the Corvette. I know that the Mustang went for sale at that auction, and then it never comes back up for air. So I don't know if someone bought it just as a Mustang and doesn't realize the significance or something. But listen, I don't even want to own them. Loan them to us. Let us just bring them out.
Museums work a lot of times.
Let us bring them out for once a year. I'll come and have them shipped to Tulsa, and you can see the cars for the summer. Blah, blah, blah. But we have a lot of stuff. And then as far as people who've come through, I have to say Tommy Howell has been the number one supporter, so much so that he now is championing the literature for young adults and is going all over the U.S. doing movie screenings, meet and greets. He's bringing out Leif, which is, Leif was kind of like missing in action, and Darren Dalton. Darren was the first person, the Tall Soch, that I met from this. I met him on the internet, and he came and did my podcast, and we hit it off. And then I met Tommy, Susie too as well. And then I met Tommy. Then I met Ralph, which I know from the Dancing with the Stars and all of that. What a great guy he is.
Great guy.
He is.
We had a great chat about The Outsiders just a couple months ago on my podcast.
Such a good dude. And Tom Cruise obviously hasn't been here. Emilio.
Rob Lowe?
Rob's been here, yeah.
Okay.
Rob, ironically enough, was doing his own show when he passed through. And I was ironically doing a House of Pain show in Cleveland. And the day he came here, I was at the Christmas Story thing doing research. So Rob has been here. And Rob is, Rob, Ralph, and Tommy have been my go-tos. In particular, Tommy is like he's the sure shot. Like you get Pony Boy, if you ask, you will receive, and he's always done me proper. And we've done books. We've got a book coming out. First time ever.
We've done a couple books too.
We've done photo books, but this now we have the oral history of the Outsiders on Penguin Books and Random House. Me and Jimmy Tremmel from Tulsa World got the gig to do it.
Wow.
But you never know. If people are going to be interested. So Emilio turned us down for the interview on that too.
Really?
Like, really,
Interesting.
dude? Like what? Like, so again, I'm not mad at nobody. My expectations have always been, because of my sobriety. When I first got here, somebody said something nasty to me. To me, it was nasty, but they said, I don't understand why you're asking for money when you can't Tom Cruise just give you $1 million. And I'm like, what do you think? Like,
doesn't work that
and
way.
it not only does it work that way, I don't want it to work that way. Like, that's not real. Like, what's real is like, we don't know where the money's coming from.
Yeah.
We didn't think this thing through.
Yeah.
This is how dreams are made. Like, you don't have time to think it through. We don't have time for a business plan. We just don't want to see this thing torn down, and we're gonna just keep doing what we're doing and figure it out. That's the spirit I think that's lost a lot of times now.
And that's why this worked so.
That's
well
why
too.
I did. And
Yeah.
you know what? And so we always, there's always, Matt came for an art thing, and then he wanted to see Susie, and then Susie and him came over, and he was like, bro, I don't want to be the one to break it to you, but I've never been inside the house. Like, what do you mean? He goes, what scene was I in the
That's
house?
right.
I was like, you're right. I'm like, what? And
It
he's
was
like,
just
dude,
the Curtis brothers and
he'd been to the fence, he'd been on the lawn.
Yeah.
And I'm like, damn, that's right, man. And I don't think he was like, yes, he wanted to see it. And I don't think he thought he was expecting much. And then he came in, and then he was like,
You can't believe it.
and then he came out, the phone came out, and he started taking photos. And I was like, yeah, gotcha.
Yeah.
He was sweet. And again, for me, that was my guy. I mean, to me, that was Marlon Brando of my generation. It was before I knew who Mickey was, Rourke, and then before I had you can find more like complex characters in life. Mickey obviously being one of them.
Yeah.
And I know you know Mickey, and I know Mickey even for a long time
Right.
in ways that didn't serve me well. But
I got busted for smoking by my mom because I was pretending to be Dallas Winston with a cigarette.
Same. I didn't get busted though. My mother's like, "Give me one, kid."
What are you doing? It's like nothing.
That's it. Yeah, but that was the character that like resonated with me, man. I mean, like I didn't want to get hurt anymore. I didn't want anybody with me. So I was like, I want to be that character.
Yeah.
I was from New York, and I was a transplant in LA, and when I first got there, they were calling me Disco Dan. That wasn't like a compliment, bro. That was like a racial slur for a white guy. You're calling you Disco Dan. They're talking shit.
Right.
And and I wanted, I remember in that movie, he's like, man, I thought the only place I'd end up in a murder rap was in New York. And I was like, yeah, I was like, so I, as a native New Yorker, as an Irish native New Yorker, an Irish American, like Matt Dillon is like the archetype for like my type of dudes. But then as you get older, you find more, like I said, more nuances in certain actors. That's the dangerous part. That's why they burn out. I mean, all my heroes when I was a kid was like Pete Rose, Mickey, like all of the dudes that are like, you don't want to be like them anymore. Like you just went, and Matt's the guy you do want to be. He had a storied career.
Right.
He doesn't want for anything, does art, is a music connoisseur, working on document. Like he wrote his own ticket, and arguably one of the most beloved leading men of an era.
Sure.
To the point where he was like, I'm good. I mean, that, especially in that era of like, from like, let's say My Bodyguard, or no, Over the Edge, where I first saw him anyway, but from Over the Edge until like Drugstore Cowboy, like that was the guy we all secretly wanted to be anyway. And it wasn't even about, it was just the look was like, if a dude like that came to the party, like nobody's getting laid. It's like, that's it. We're screwed because they're all the girls, even your girlfriend is going, like, so you got to love a guy like that, know? But, so yes, we have an open invite. I'd love to get Matt back. We're working on bringing people back for this benefit, and I'd like to just briefly talk about
Yes.
that. So we're doing a benefit. I'm a big fan of giving people their flowers before they die.
Right.
And I'm not thinking that anybody's going to die anytime soon. But you asked me early on, and I want to address it in this way. When I got to Tulsa and I realized that The Outsiders was here, I was like, well, where's all the stuff? Like celebrating this author and this legacy. And there wasn't.
Right.
And I thought, well, that's disappointing, but it's also an opportunity. You know, thank God they didn't, because why don't you do it?
Yeah.
You know, and that I was like, okay, you know, like talking to myself, okay,
Yeah,
I'm down. Because in LA, what are you gonna do? Like, we're cool on that, brother. Like, you can hold all that, you know. Like, but here it was like this was a necessary thing. This was celebrating an author who literally created a new category by default. When she wrote this book, there was no ever and recorded adult writing
section.
about being young adult for young adults, which creates the young adult section. The young adult category was start in 1967 when The Outsiders came out, and it is the #1 selling category to date. She kicked a hole in this and created a whole path for people to do their thing.
I mean, just one of the most famous authors of all time, American authors.
And
for
not
sure.
only famous, who's still around to see their book celebrate
Yes.
these milestones? And then who's loved? Yeah, arguably, and I can think as I'm thinking of this, like, you know, you'll say, you know, Kerouac, and they're cool, but they were cool because it's like a rite of passage, and so is Susie. But Susie, like, she's got the same argument, I think, that, and I know I'm all over the place, but the same that like Billy Corgan has is like, dude, yeah, you know, Kurt Cobain was cool, but I'm still here, bro.
Yeah.
And that's that meant something to me,
yeah.
because I'm like, you know what? Because I've made it out of the other side of that life. And also, I mean, like, you know, that gotta count for something.
Right.
Yeah, because I like, to be honest with you, I like Smashing Pumpkins better than I like Nirvana, and I love Nirvana. But I'm like, dude, it's actually really cool to still survive
Well, it's
that
just like the
thing.
Beatles and Stones. I mean, who's better? Well, Stones
Yeah.
have 60 years.
Exactly.
And you can see them. Well,
Exactly.
still,
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, again, all of that to say, we're doing a fundraiser. We're trying to expand the program that we have, and do more with what we have, celebrate her legacy in ways, but also at the end of the day, we're all getting older, and I want to give Susie her flowers and show her how important this is to all of us. So we partnered with the musical. We have the band that did all the music, doing that for us, and I always mess it up, so that's why I'm starting to pause. I always say Jonestown, but it's Jamestown Revival. I'm an old, like, you know, so they'll get it. Wonderful guys, wonderful musicians. They're playing. We have a local act, Jolene Brown, playing it. I have a book that's coming out that will be there for the first time. I bought the continuity book from the hair and makeup people whose their daughter found it in storage after they passed away. They were throwing everything out.
Yeah.
I paid quite a nice sum for that book, and then I've had it literally made into page for page. It's just as it appeared. These are photos that will blow your mind. If you love this legacy, these photos are going to shock you, because they're not meant for public consumption. They're meant for continuity.
Right,
Okay, your
of
hair
course.
was like this,
Yeah.
the jacket, the cross. Okay,
Yeah.
and if we had to reshoot that, you're like, dude, that earring wasn't.
Show up
so
3 weeks later,
yeah,
you still look
so
the same.
a lot of them, their eyes are closed so the flash doesn't blow up, so they can still do their scene. A lot of them, they're messing around, but they are. It's an incredible thing. So we have a lot of stuff lined up. We're working on bringing some of the actors. We actually have the Soch, Darren Dalton, coming back. We're working on Leif Garrett coming back. Unfortunately, Tommy's in C is working during this thing, but I think his missus will be coming because she does a lot of the touring with him and all that. And then, you know, I'm hoping to get Ralph or Rob, or we'll see, man. I mean, I've got a lot of there's a lot of maybes. And it's just not as easy as you think to just, but on the same token, this thing is about Susie and not about the movie. And this is not about.
So you want to try and raise the fundraiser to do a museum, a Susie, S.E. Hinton.
An S.E. Hinton
Yeah.
museum, but really to solidify what we already have. If you look around this house is built on stem walls. I didn't know what that was until I got here.
What is it? I don't either.
It's so before they put concrete down, before there was a concrete thing, they used to build the house on bricks, and then there's support beams going through, and then under there's cart jacks and other bricks. So as the house settles,
Okay, gotcha.
You know, so when we go outside, I'll show you. So It's like a drum.
Yeah.
Because there's no foundation.
Gotcha.
So those houses just start to, and you can see
fly.
cracks in the walls. That's not cosmetic. I like to
Yeah.
say it is, but it's not. This house, you could roll a Matchbox car in 5 minutes. It'll go make the lap, and it'll be back here because it's just it's wonky, and that's part of the beauty. This house, if something I hear something break or somebody kick something, I'm like, it's fine, dude. It's a greaser house. Like we could, if it was an Andy Warhol museum, you'd be like, you'd call on your lawyer, But this is like, if it gets knackered, so be it. But it wasn't meant to have this many people come through, and you would think, well, you got so many people, why aren't you rich? But it's not. This is. By the time everything is paid out,
It's a great point, though. If you 150 people are coming through here a day, that's a lot of pressure on these floors.
It's a lot of wear and tear on a house that was not built for that. And even though this was built to last, this house was moved here in the 40s. Right. It was built in the 20s. Moved here from downtown, and anything past this was added on, those back rooms, and then obviously we rebuilt the gift shop, which used to be something else. But so the fundraiser is manifold, but at the end of the day, all of this is to just really shine a light on S.C. Hinton. Not that she needs my help to do that, but I think for the first time in a long time, she's starting to realize, hey man, this has been a burden also to her, and I get that. It's probably like a Twilight Zone movie for her. You write a book at 15 and a half, and people are like, dude, you've changed my life. And she's like, Danny, I didn't want to change everybody's life. Yeah. That's a lot to put on somebody, and you don't think about it. Now do it for
whole life.
Your whole life. It's a Twilight Zone episode. Mm-hmm. I write a few books, and now people won't, everywhere I go, they're like crying.
That's a great point.
Dude, I mean, I didn't think about that. We always go, you signed up for this, dude. You want to be Axl Rose. You signed up for it, Axl. Why are you using a teleprompter, bro? You got so much important things you can't remember your own lyrics, and you don't want to sign autographs, Michael Jordan. What? You signed up for this, but she didn't really sign up for this. She wrote a book not thinking anything. It just because she said
D in class.
Yeah, dude, and she said this wasn't the first one she wrote. What? So again, and then she realized, okay, this is my path. But I have a lot of empathy for the reason why that she doesn't like. And then you can imagine when this book has that kind of heartstrings attached, that when people used to get her out to the schools, they would throw her to the lions, which are the kids and the kids' parents who were going to devour her. And they're like, look what I did, everybody, I got that. And they're not thinking about that's a human who's overwhelmed by all this as well. And now you've got 20 crying parents trying to selfie and and I'm like, oh my God, I too would be like, I'm staying home today. So the museum has solved a lot of problems for her because she's like, oh, no, I won't be able to speak to your school, but they do a virtual tour and you can come here and all of my stuff is here. And if you need to see, and listen, she just gave us, and I don't mind telling the number, she just gave us $100,000 to help with we have an office now for the nonprofit and
that's great.
Staffing and all of that stuff. So she's been the number one contributor to this thing, but it takes a lot to keep this thing constantly going. We have to be very malleable. The musical, the new cast has come to town and they want to do stuff to this. We have to have people constantly coming and going, opening and closing, doing all of the stuff. So we're growing, and we don't have the resources to grow at the pace that we want to. And so we're doing the fundraiser. Originally, we were shooting for a higher number, but we wanted to keep this more of a celebration. So I think our number right now is $250,000. We've got really cool artists. I know a lot of old school graffiti / legends like Caves from Brooklyn and Lee from Brooklyn, who's like, these are like household names in the graffiti, like already sending me paintings. Lee's coming out with Caves to come here. Like, I got people, this is the beauty. And I think we were talking about Matt Dillon in this way, but Susie transcends like all of this, like where your favorite rapper likes like Susie more than they like Nas, you know what I mean? And Nas like Susie, or like, that. Yeah. Your favorite rocker is like, no, dude, that was the book that did it for me. Like your favorite actor is like, man, no. Before that, there was The Outsiders. That's what made me want to. So Susie is at the apex of like, cool. You know what I mean? She's up there with like those names that are just like legendary cool. And the fact that she's a female too, and she's like, she don't suffer no fools, bro. Yeah. Again, she's another one. She'd probably kick out both of our asses if she got a little hot. So, and you gotta love it, man. That's exactly what I expect from the author of The Outsiders.
Yeah.
Someone that takes no shit off of nobody, gives none, but doesn't take none either.
Right.
And it's very much, as advertised. So we love her, and we're going to throw a kick-ass party. And you gave us some wonderful
I
some
signed some
stuff
guitars.
too.
I'm going to donate some stuff.
I love it, man. And that's really what it's about, man. It's just to really just lean into how precious she is, man.
Yeah.
Because again, listen, we're all getting up there, and I don't want to say, oh, we'll always have, we'll do that. Like now's the time to really, right. And with the momentum that the musical has brought, which make no mistake, it has upped our numbers as well. I mean, it's very cool to have that. You know what I mean? At first, when they announced that they were going to work on that, I'm like, oh no, please no, because you never know if it went bad, they could be like, that musical is badass. So if you haven't seen it, you owe it to yourself.
Last few questions for you. There's you're talking the musical and the photo books and this museum and this possible S.E. Hinton museum. What is it about The Outsiders that is so eternal? Why does it still bring all of us together and new generations and new generations?
I think with my ninth grade education, I'll answer the best way I know how. And I think we've already kind of touched on it, but it's just to put a explanation point on it. Just like the Romeo and Juliet, or just like West Side Story, or just like The Wild Ones, and there's always that rebel, and there's always that kid from the wrong side of the tracks, and there's always that beautiful girl or that beautiful life just waiting on that other side of that thing. But in reality, we get a lot of the high dollar parochial schools that come here, and they're all socias, if you will.
Right.
But when they come here, they come dressed as greasers. So a lot of your favorite rock stars, they maybe didn't grow up as rock starry as you think, but they're all in the flannels and the ripped jeans, boy, and the leather. Everybody has an affinity for that story. It's the hero's journey. It's no matter how, whatever your lot in life is, it's your job to go, okay, fine, I'm going to work with the hand that I was dealt and make the best of it. And I think there's, for somebody to be 15 and a half and to be able to put all that down is mind bending. But I think like a lot of things, this is like that all American can do story where you're just like, man, no matter where you fit into this thing, it's your job to find the sunset and to realize that we saw the same sunset as more than just a piece of the book or something in the movie where he says, can you see it from the west side? Pretty good. I can see it. You dig okay. When I hear that as an adult, what I hear is we could be diametrically opposed. All of the things. And if you look up and I look up and we go, whoa, that's a beautiful sunset. By default, that brings us one step closer. It's our job as God's children or the human, whatever, the universe's child, whatever you fancy, is to say, hey man, we're all human. And it's easy to find the differences. Why don't we look for the similarities and then use that to build bridges instead of be like, they voted this way or he said that. Who cares, man? Hey, we're all doing what we think is the right thing, most of us. That's fine. Okay, I don't like that component about you. But I do like a lot of other things. Let's focus on that. And what you focus on is what, Yeah. And I think her ability to talk about, that both sides of the tracks and still say, hey, man, this is still, for me, it was hope in this movie. Because I grew up, like I said, father was in prison since I'm 2 months old. Mother didn't want it. Latchkey kid, which was an 80s thing where you just basically were on your own. And I thought if the best it gets is me and you and a couple of our chums running around, sneaking in the movie, smoking cigarettes, all right, I'm with that. I'll give it a go. Because, like Johnny, I was like, man, I don't want to be here. So looking back, I think this book is one of those books, man, where you're just like, hey, man, there's a path for me. I just got to go figure it out. And so I know that was a long...
That was well said.
All right. Thank you. I'll take it. Moving right along.
Last question for you. What's your favorite scene from the movie?
It's a great question, and I know exactly what it is because when I saw the movie for the first time, like I said, I went into it blind. So as it started up, I go, is this going to be like Grease? Is this going to be something like that? And I know, and as soon as they go to meet Dally on the corner, and I see a dude, a silhouette, he's smoking, he's got his foot kicked up on the
So
thing,
cool.
and the boys walk up and they're like, "Hey, Dally, we're early." And he's like, "What do you want to do?" And he goes, "Nothing legal, man. Let's get out of here." And they turn around and he starts strutting like pre-Conor McGregor by like 40 years. He struts up the street. A girl walks by, checks on her ass, and
That
he's like,
music's
"Oh,
playing,
ding, ding,
Gloria."
Gloria." I'm like, dude, I already knew. Like low key, I was like, all right, I'm all in on this one. This one's cool. And then straight away there's a fight and it turns into a circle and the dude comes up with a knife and I'm like, oh, okay, yeah. Now I'm locked in. I'm like, I don't know what this book was, but I'm into this movie. And just everything about that was so cool, man. And I when I watch it now, it's not like, oh, here we go again. I've seen this a million times. It always brings me back to feeling like that kid at 14 who was just so like enamored with this whole thing. I mean, and so that was it. And then I would tell you something that stood out, and probably for the wrong reasons. But when they encountered the socias, and when he goes, he was like, "We got 4 more in the back seat." He's like, "Pity the back seat." He broke that bottle, handed it to Pony, and comes back up with this knife. I was like, bro. Yeah. I was like, okay. Note to self: when facing being jumped, break bottle, hand to friend. And then turn around as you're whipping out and believe me, they were legal at the time. So in '83, you could go to the swap meet in the Valley and buy a butterfly knife for $10. They were all from China. And I had a brass one and I had fingers would cut like, but
man.
we
I looked
learned
for a switchblade in Winnipeg and Canada.
Oh yeah, you couldn't find it to save your life. Yeah, well, this butterfly knife, switchblades were illegal
butterfly
too.
knife as well,
but butterfly knives at the time weren't. They are now.
Okay.
And what makes them so they're actually felonies because most of the blades are daggers. And if there's a 2-sided blade, they've said that's for one purpose. But prior to that, you could buy them at the swap meet for cheap. They're all coming from China. And so we were like, oh man, it was like you could not. We couldn't help ourselves. So there's just so much about that movie that I love, man. I will tell you this in ending. I think it's a tragedy, and in most fans who know, they'll know exactly what I mean when I say that when they redid the movie and they put back the extra footage that was cut out, Coppola took a leap of faith and he said, you know what? I'm not going to include my father's score. Mm-hmm. I'm going to put in the music I always wanted to put in, which completely...
It's terrible.
It's terrible, thank you.
Yeah, it's terrible.
And when they called me from Zoetrope when they were doing the 4K restoration, they said, well, you seem to be like the expert on this. What would you suggest? I said, put back the original Carmine Coppola score. And they said, well, no, Coppola isn't that, anything but that. I said, well, then we're lost here at this point. All of that to say, real fans, they want the magic of his father's.
Sure.
That was the proverbial like ties the old in with the new, if you will. Like it brings you some like old 40s Technicolor like grand, and then it marries it to the 60s, like right at the edge of what we would know, like in the 80s of just like the cool. Dude, when you pull it out and you put in this like Dick Dale, yeah, and all that, like, get that out of here. So I love the original score. Shout out to, Coppola's father, who was the original famous Coppola. He was the Henry Ford Theater's guy, and he was Ford's right hand. So that's why Francis Ford Coppola is named that, because he was at the Ford Theater. All of it to say to all you greasers and some of you socias, it's been a wonderful opportunity to serve you all. And I hope that this thing continues long after I'm gone and that we're all gone. And it's been an honor to be here and to have you here. I mean, again, bro, you are the first celebrity / coolest dude in the room. And you came here when there was just a rumor that this might be something that they're working on. And it's so good to have you back, to make the trek all the way back to Tulsa to come do this, because I know you have many places we could have done this. And it means a lot to me to have you here. So, yeah, thank you.
Stay gold.
Stay gold.